Hey, hello David, how are you?
Hi Loic, how are you? It's great to be here.
Great meeting you too.
Talking to you.
Well, so we're doing this video for the forum blog.
Yep.
What's your feeling about this year's Davos, David?
Well, the energy is very high this year, and everybody's saying that it's all about energy and global warming, and there's no question that's on everybody's mind, partly because we're all experiencing this bizarre weather that's making us feel very disturbed personally, and we want to do something about it. We no longer can deny that something's happening, or we think we're being shown by the weather that global warming is real. I do believe global warming is real, by the way. Aside from that,
do you feel people are frightened?
Yes, I think people are frightened about a lot of things. I think one of the great things about Davos is that it really helps people feel there is some hope in a lot of arenas, because they believe that by getting together with this goal of improving the state of the world, which I really do believe the forum really does hold and helps to advance, maybe we can do some little bit of our part to move things forward. But we have gigantic global cultural misunderstanding, the mammoth problem, the biggest problem of global poverty. We've got global warming, we've got digital divide, we've got all kinds of subsidiary political tensions. All these things come to the fore here. But the great thing about Davos is that you have business leaders, political leaders, and you have a very large number. I'm struck by how many NGOs and individuals who have really gotten involved in various ways with a really positive agenda who are mixing with these leaders. And I think it does have a positive impact.
And so you have also several speaking roles. You had an amazing session yesterday on avatars and online identity. Can you wrap it up?
Well, you were a panelist for that last night on avatars and digital identity, which ended up being very much about Second Life. And I'm of the belief that Second Life really is one of the most important things happening in technology, because it's a new kind of platform for creating content in a user-generated universe, in the most free platform for creating user-generated content. More than blogging, more than video blogging, more than MySpace, it is a fundamentally new change, in my opinion. So it was interesting to me about the session last night was how excited and interested this wide diversity of people have become in this thing, even though most of them have never used it.
I love the literature part.
Yes, the literary argument that somehow Second Life has a literary legitimacy, in effect, and that there's a literary influence that's underpinning it, that this Professor Baba from Harvard mentioned. He was one of the panelists. And then also we had the brain scientist, what's her name again?
Baroness...
Susan Greenfield.
Susan Greenfield,
my mental lapse. Susan Greenfield, who is the brain scientist from Oxford, who was talking about some of her questions about it, but how her brain research and understanding leads her to realize that there is no one identity that we have. It's all a sort of, in a sense, an illusion. We think we know what reality is. So in a way, this is an extension of what is already something of a potential illusion philosophically, or from a brain science perspective, that who knows whether what we're doing on Second Life is any less real than what we have here. I don't know. Maybe I'm going overboard on that. But the session was surprisingly dynamic, with Mitch Kapoor, who is the chairman of the board of Linden Lab and the first person that put money into Second Life in large quantities. He was a very central figure in the panel, and John Gage of Sun gave a little demo.
John described the new, the very different things with Second Life is the fact that it's all user-generated content which belongs to the consumers, which is very important, right? You build and you own what you build.
Right. I mean, Second Life is all about user-generated content. And of course, the theme of the session was digital identity and avatars, and how does your existence as this sort of newly created, imagined person inside Second Life reflect what you think about yourself in real life, and what does it do to your identity? And then we were talking also about other issues of digital identity that you very well articulated, and Nicholas Zenstrom of Skype was talking about how eBay does a pretty good job of defining someone's digital identity to give them credibility and an authenticity online so that you can feel comfortable doing transactions with them. And he talked about the need to create some new form of identity documentation and legitimacy, authorization, and collective sort of reinforcement of authority and trustworthiness, like eBay does within its own confines across the entire internet, which I think is a very important thing that has to develop.
And David, you described it as not a gadget, clearly, but something as important as the World Wide Web.
Well, I
So
think that
how do you see it in 10 years? Like,
I don't think
try to make us dream a little bit, and then how do you see it?
Nobody's saying that Second Life is as important as the World Wide Web. That would be absurd. What people say is that in Second Life you can see the germ of something new that is fundamentally different from the World Wide Web and seems to have fantastic promise. So that when, in an article I just wrote on Fortune.com, I quote Sam Palmisano, CEO of IBM, saying, in effect, that he believes that Second Life and 3D virtual worlds in general could be the next phase of the Internet's evolution. And that is because it's especially the way Second Life has implemented it, a very open platform for creating content in a new way and interacting with information in a new way. So no way is Second Life like the web. Second Life is infinitesimal compared to the web. But we see something fundamentally new that we've never seen before there.
And money is in, right?
Well, there's some money. There's close to $1 million a day in U.S. dollar transactions.
$1 million a day
inside Second Life. So their GDP is approaching $400 million a year, or 300 to 400 million a year. And the number of people signing up is astonishing, and it's got problems. But it's really an interesting new development.
So what are the other trends you see in technology, David, around, except Second Life? You see TV, I guess. You mentioned Niklas Stenström's project.
Well, I think the issue of how the Internet is upsetting the order of media is a very big technology story. We were in a big session yesterday with a number of the leaders of the global media, Arthur Sulzberger, who's the CEO of the New York Times Company, and the editors of Bloomberg, BBC.
Murdoch is here too.
Agence France Presse. Yes, he wasn't at the meeting, but The Economist, Business Week, Forbes, all were in this one room with people like Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook and others, bloggers like Ariana Huffington and John Battelle, and trying to deal with this question of what is new media doing to old media. And I have to say, the old media doesn't get it yet. They don't realize how fast things like what you're doing here really create an alternative to the customer, the consumer, so that you're competing for time with, basically French national television. Someone's time spent watching this on the Internet is time they're not spending watching conventional TV. And that is the big issue. The user's time is shifting, and your cost of production is nothing compared to, major television companies.
$500 camera.
Right. You've got a cheap camera, and your time is your own time, but you don't have a huge crew. Your wife is operating the camera.
Well, sometimes.
I might say so this time. Very well, I should say. But this is a big change, and I think, to me, that's a very interesting issue. I'll tell you, one of my own personal interests that is a huge issue, which is somewhat manifest here, is the question of how technology can be used to help reduce the economic divide that so plagues the world, which is probably the world's biggest single problem. And many, many of the biggest technology companies now are focusing on the question, what can we do to make money and also help the poor of the world increase their earning power, their productivity.
So what can we do?
Well, we have the OLPC, Nicholas Negroponte's $100 laptop. He's all over the place here. He's going to be showing it all day tomorrow because Google and News Corp and the UNDP are partnering with him to help show it, and he's got 1 million meetings with people, Intel, AMD, all the big tech companies, Microsoft, are really pushing ways that they believe can bring technology to the masses of the world, and sometimes with no profit, sometimes in a way that they think can really help their own companies grow profitably. And that would be the perfect win if companies can make money and help those poorest of the poor increase their lot. I'm extremely excited about that possibility.
Any other session you participate to in this year's Davos before Sunday?
Well, I'm going to do a very interesting session on Saturday called Living in a Connected World, where we're going to imagine what life will be like in 2015 for 5 different kinds of people. Let's see, a house husband in Finland, a nurse in Tokyo, I believe, a farmer in Kenya, investment banker in New York, some combination of that. But for each one of these individuals, we're going to have a breakout group who's going to try to imagine what will their life be like in 2015. Then we're going to go from there and say, well, if that's what life's going to be like, what does that mean for our organizations? How do we move them into that future? How do we change as individuals and organizations? That's a 2.5-hour workshop that I'm going to help facilitate. Fascinating. I'm going to attend another workshop like that right after this interview with you on tribalism and how the growing issue of tribalism in the world and the idea that I belong to this religion or this tribe is affecting people's national and personal identity, and how can we deal with that as the world moves more and more interconnected, which I think is a huge issue. I mean, we have the whole Shiite-Sunni conflict and the, you know, Islamic versus the West conflict. There's a tribal element to all this, you know, the fear of the other. And I'm not moderating that, I'm just attending that, but it's very exciting. I'll tell you something else. I was happy to...
I'm so excited by all these topics, and I understand. I'm
an excited guy, but I got signed up for this session that everybody seems to want to go to, and I just discovered that I'm very lucky that I was able to sign up. It's in the dark. It's a session that's going to be conducted entirely in the dark in order to teach us something about how to relate to each other and management. I don't even know, but I just thought it was so novel to have a session entirely...
When is that?
It's tomorrow. It's happening at least 3 times tomorrow.
So if I'll try to join this sounds... But so if you ever come to Paris, there's a restaurant which is all in the dark too.
Totally in the dark?
Yeah, absolutely in the dark. Yeah, and it's operated by blind people.
But everybody can go there.
Yeah, you can. It's done for us to understand what the blind think and feel.
Did you go there?
I didn't go. I want to go. It's just brand new, and it's all in the black. You don't see anything.
When I come to Paris, will you take me there?
Please come there.
Okay, good.
Thank you so very much, David, for sharing your thoughts and for your excitement about everything.
I always love talking to you. You have a lot of excitement too, so we get along that way.
Thanks, David.
Okay, bye-bye.